Captain Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, her eyes fixed on the view screen. The alien ship had appeared 3 hours ago, limping into the solar system with obvious damage to its hull. It wasn't like anything humans had seen before. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with internal light. "Any response to our hails?" Susan asked, her voice steady despite the historic moment unfolding. Lieutenant Paul Diaz shook his head. "Nothing yet, Captain. But they're still broadcasting that same distress signal on multiple frequencies." Susan nodded and straightened her uniform. Humanity had prepared for first contact for generations, but no one expected it to happen like this, with a damaged ship barely making it past Neptune's orbit. "Keep trying. And get me a direct line to United Earth Command. They need to know we're about to make history." The communication officer worked quickly, and soon the stern face of Admiral George Winters appeared on screen. "Captain Miller, I understand. We have visitors?" "Yes, Admiral. A single vessel heavily damaged. They're broadcasting distress calls but haven't responded to our communications yet." The Admiral's expression remained neutral. "Your orders are to establish contact if possible and render aid as needed. But remember, your primary responsibility is to Earth security. If anything seems off, you pull back immediately." "Understood, sir." Just as the transmission ended, Paul called out, "Captain, they're responding." The main screen flickered, and for the first time, humanity gazed upon an alien face. The creature had features reminiscent of Earth's insects, large, compound eyes that shimmered with an inner intelligence and a body covered in an iridescent exoskeleton. But there was something undeniably sentient in the way it held itself, in the careful movements of its 4 upper limbs. "This is Zixal, 3rd Navigator, of the Aurelian refugee vessel Lightseeker," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "We request emergency assistance and sanctuary." Susan took a deep breath. "I am Captain Susan Miller of the United Earth Space Force vessel USS Horizon. We received your distress call and stand ready to help." The alien, Zixal, seemed to sag with relief. "Thank the stars. We have traveled far, evading pursuers. Our engines are failing, and we have wounded aboard, including younglings." "We can send medical teams," Susan offered. "But I need to understand what you're running from." Zixal's large eyes dimmed slightly. "The Kraxan Dominion. They attacked our homeworld 6 cycles ago. Those of us who could escape did so, but we are few. We have visited 3 other spacefaring civilizations before yours seeking help. All turned us away, fearing Kraxan retaliation." Susan frowned. "And you think these Kraxan might follow you here?" "Not immediately. We employed several methods to hide our trail. But eventually, yes. The Kraxan do not forget and they do not forgive." Susan straightened her shoulders. "We'll need more information, but right now let's focus on helping your wounded and repairing your ship." Within hours, the first human medical teams boarded the alien vessel. Dr. Sam Harris led the team, reporting back regularly to the Horizon. "Captain, there are about 200 Aurelians aboard," he said during his first report. 43 are injured, and their medical facilities were damaged in whatever attack they suffered. They have children here too, at least 30 of them. Over the next few days, as the Aurelian ship was towed to Mars orbit for safety, more details emerged. The Kraxan Dominion was an expansionist empire that had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. The Aurelians were just their latest victims. A week after first contact, the United Earth government called an emergency session. Susan attended, virtually from the Horizon, which remained on guard duty near the Aurelian vessel. President Elizabeth Cooper addressed the assembly. "We face an unprecedented situation. The Aurelians have provided extensive evidence of the Kraxans' actions: systematic genocide, enslavement of populations, strip mining of conquered worlds. They've asked for humanitarian aid and possibly sanctuary for their refugees. My question to this body is, what are we prepared to do?" The debate raged for hours. Some officials urged caution, suggesting that Earth should stay out of alien conflicts. Others argued for a more compassionate response, offering temporary shelter while avoiding direct confrontation with the Kraxan. The tide turned when Ambassador Zixal was invited to speak. Instead of appearing himself, he sent a transmission showing 5 Irilian children. They stood nervously before the camera, their delicate frames trembling slightly. The smallest one stepped forward. "Hello, humans," she said in carefully practiced English. "My name is Tila. Our parents taught us your language from the broadcasts we received over many years. We watched your shows about heroes who help others." She paused, her large eyes blinking rapidly. "Please help us. We have nowhere else to go." The assembly fell silent. Even the most cautious politicians seemed moved by the simple plea. That evening, news networks across Earth broadcast the children's message. Social media erupted with support for the Irilians. Hashtags like "During Near Stand with Irilians" and "Yarner Refuge for All" trended globally. 2 days later, the government reconvened and voted overwhelmingly to offer the Irilians sanctuary. Susan received the news, while reviewing sensor data that the Irilians had shared about Kraxan military capabilities. Their technology was significantly advanced beyond Earth's current level, which made the president's next announcement all the more surprising. "Captain Miller," President Cooper said during a private call, "I've been authorized to inform you that Earth is not simply offering sanctuary. We're going to help the Irilians reclaim their homeworld." Susan blinked in surprise. "Madam President, with all due respect, the Kraxan military technology is advanced, yes, but so were the British Empire's weapons compared to American colonists. So were the armies that faced resistance fighters in 100 conflicts throughout our history." The president's eyes hardened. "The Irilians came asking for a safe place to hide. But hiding doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't free their people from slavery or restore their world." "What exactly are you authorizing, Madam President?" "Full military mobilization. We're going to use the Irilian knowledge of Kraxan technology to upgrade our own. Then we're taking the fight to them." Susan felt a chill run down her spine. "The Irilians only asked for sanctuary." "Yes," the president nodded. "And that's why they're so surprised by our response. Ambassador Zixal couldn't believe it when I told him. Apparently, in their culture, asking another species to fight your battles is unthinkable. They never imagined we'd offer." "And the risk to Earth?" "Substantial," the president admitted. "But from what the Irilians tell us, the Kraxan will eventually expand in our direction anyway. Better to fight them now with allies who know their weaknesses than wait until we're alone." As Susan ended the call, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an empire of conquerors continued their brutal expansion, unaware that they had finally encountered a species that wouldn't stand by and watch others suffer. Humanity had been asked for aid. They were responding with war. 6 months passed quickly. The Irilian refugees settled into temporary homes on Mars Colony and Europa Base. Human scientists worked day and night with Irilian engineers to upgrade Earth's weapons and ships. Progress happened faster than anyone expected. Commander Alan Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, the first ship fitted with Irilian shield technology. 4 other vessels flanked his position, forming a small but powerful fleet. Their mission was simple but dangerous: deliver Earth's message to the Kraxan Empire. "All ships report ready, Commander," said Lieutenant Kathy Bell from her station. Alan nodded. "Set course for the coordinates Ambassador Zixal provided. This is the edge of Kraxan space." The journey took 3 weeks through the newly discovered jump points the Irilians had shared. When they arrived, Alan ordered his fleet to hold position just outside Kraxan sensor range. "Open a channel on all frequencies," he ordered. "Use the translation matrix the Irilians provided." Soon, a harsh voice answered. "This is Border Command of the glorious Kraxan Dominion. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Alan stepped forward. "I am Commander Alan Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force. We come with a message for Emperor Vortek." There was a long pause before the reply came. "Wait for authorization." Alan waited patiently. His crew looked nervous but determined. They had trained for this moment, but facing an advanced alien empire was still terrifying. After 20 minutes, the screen flickered, to life. A massive figure appeared, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. The alien's face was hidden behind a helmet with glowing red sensors. "I am Supreme Commander Grax of the Emperor's Personal Guard. State your business, human." Alan straightened his uniform. "We bring a message from Earth. The Aurelian people sought our help after your empire attacked their world. We demand you withdraw from Aurelian territory and release all prisoners. If you refuse, Earth will take action to free them ourselves." The Kraxan commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species is barely space-capable. The Aurelians are weak fools who deserve their fate. Leave now, and we may spare your primitive world when we eventually reach it." "We won't abandon people in need," Alan replied firmly. "This is your only warning." The screen went dark without further response. Alan turned to his crew. "Be ready. I doubt they'll let us leave peacefully." He was right. 10 minutes later, sensors detected multiple ships approaching at high speed. 5 Kraxan vessels, heavy cruiser class, reported the sensor officer. "They're not responding to hails," added Lieutenant Bell. Alan gripped the edge of his command chair. "Red alert. Shields up. Tell all ships to prepare for combat but hold fire until fired upon." The Kraxan didn't wait long. Their lead ship fired, a powerful energy beam at the smallest human vessel, the USS Courage. "Return fire," Alan ordered. "Target their weapon systems only." The battle was brief but fierce. Earth's ships, enhanced with Aurelian technology, held their own better than expected. But the Kraxan had centuries of war experience. Within minutes, 2 human ships were destroyed, their crews lost. "We can't win this fight," Alan decided. "Prepare jump coordinates. We need to get this information back to Earth." As the USS Defiant turned to escape, a direct hit rocked the ship. Alarms blared throughout the vessel. Engine room reporting heavy damage, shouted Lieutenant Bell. "Jump drive still functional, but barely." "Get us out of here," Alan ordered. The Defiant escaped, leaving behind the burning wrecks of 2 sister ships. Over 300 human lives lost in humanity's first interstellar battle. Back on Earth, the news hit hard. Memorial services were held for the fallen crews. But instead of causing fear, the Kraxan attack strengthened humanity's resolve. Dr. Julie Carter, a military historian working with the Aurelian archives, made an important discovery during this time. She found ancient texts describing the Kraxan's rise to power. "They've been doing this for thousands of years," she explained to the United Earth Defense Council. "They find developing civilizations, conquer them, take their resources, and use their people as slaves. Then they move on to the next target. According to these records, they've wiped out at least 7 species completely." President Cooper looked grim. "And they'll eventually come for Earth whether we fight now or not." "Exactly," Julie nodded. "The Aurelians believe we have maybe 20 years before they'd reach us naturally in their expansion. But now that we've shown ourselves as allies of the Aurelians, they might come sooner." Meanwhile, Navy officer Peter Johnson led a small team on a dangerous mission. Using a captured Kraxan shuttle provided by the Aurelians, they infiltrated a Kraxan prison world called Tartarus. The conditions they found were horrific. Thousands of Aurelians and other alien species worked in mines and factories under terrible conditions. Guards beat prisoners who couldn't keep up. Children were separated from parents and forced to work sorting toxic materials with their bare hands. Peter's team moved carefully through the facility, following their mission plan. They were looking for specific Aurelian scientists who had crucial knowledge about Kraxan defense systems. "There," whispered Sam Green, Peter's second-in-command. "Cell block 7. That's where they should be." Breaking into the cell block was surprisingly easy. The Kraxan were so confident in their superiority that security was minimal. They found 5 Aurelians huddled together in a small cell. The aliens looked sick and thin, but their eyes lit up with hope when they saw the human rescue team. "We come from Earth," Peter said quietly. "We're here to get you out." The lead Aurelian scientist, Dr. Nex, couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You came all this way? Risked your lives for us?" "That's what humans do," Peter replied simply. "Now let's move." The escape was tense but successful. As their shuttle broke atmosphere, Peter looked back at the prison world below. "We'll be back for the rest," he promised. All of them. 2 weeks later, Peter's team returned to Earth with the rescued scientists. The information they brought changed everything. Dr. Nex and his team had been developing a weapon to disable cracks and shields before their capture. With Earth's resources, they could finish their work. While Earth prepared for war, the Kraxan launched their first attack. A fleet of 30 ships appeared near Neptune, heading toward Earth's outer colonies. They expected to face primitive resistance from a young species. They were wrong. Admiral Karen Wilson waited with Earth's newly enhanced defense fleet. Her ships were fewer in number, but equipped with the best technology humans and Aurelians could create together. "Let them come," she told her captains. "Today we show the galaxy that humanity stands against tyrants, no matter where they come from." The Kraxan fleet approached, confident in their superior numbers and thousand-year history of conquest. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Admiral Karen Wilson watched the enemy ships on the large display. The Kraxan fleet moved in a tight formation toward Neptune's orbit. They were confident, showing no signs of concern about the human defenders waiting for them. Their arrogance would be their downfall. "All ships, maintain radio silence," Karen ordered. "Let them think they've surprised us." Her plan was unusual by traditional space combat standards. Instead of forming a defensive line, she had scattered her ships in small groups behind moons and within the rings of Neptune. The Kraxan would have to split up to engage them, and that's when the humans would strike. "Enemy fleet passing Neptune's outer moon now," reported Officer Eric Dawson. "They haven't changed formation." Karen nodded. "Perfect. Wait until they're fully committed." The Kraxan fleet commander, General Tragg, laughed as he spotted the small group of human ships ahead of him. Only 6 vessels were visible, apparently scrambling to form a defensive position. "Pathetic," he told his bridge crew. "These primitives think they can stand against us, target their lead ships and fire when ready." What General Tragg didn't know was that the visible human ships were bait. As his fleet moved forward, dozens of hidden human vessels powered up their engines. "Now!" Admiral Wilson commanded. Human ships burst from their hiding places behind moons and within Neptune's rings. They attacked from all sides, targeting the Kraxan ships with surprising precision. General Tragg was shocked. Where did they come from? Return fire, reform the fleet. But the damage was already done. The Kraxan ships, caught in the open, were surrounded. 3 exploded almost immediately, their engines hit by the new weapons designed by the rescued Aurelian scientists. "Keep moving," Karen ordered her fleet. "Don't stay in one place long enough for them to target you." The human ships darted around, the larger Kraxan vessels like angry bees, striking quickly and then moving on. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work according to Kraxan military doctrine. Their ships were designed for powerful frontal assaults, not the hit-and-run tactics the humans were using. "Admiral," Eric called out, "the enemy is trying to regroup near Neptune's largest moon." Karen smiled. "Spring the trap." On her command, 5 specially modified human ships activated powerful electromagnetic pulse devices. The weapons had been designed based on Aurelian knowledge of Kraxan technology, targeting specific frequencies used by their ship systems. 7 more Kraxan ships suddenly drifted powerless in space. Their crews scrambled to restore systems while human vessels closed in for the kill. In just 40 minutes of battle, the Kraxan had lost 17 capital ships. The remaining vessels began a chaotic retreat. "Should we pursue?" asked Captain Larry Hayes of the USS Challenger. "Negative," Karen replied. "Let them run. Let them tell their masters what happened here." When news of the victory reached Earth, celebrations broke out across the planet. Humanity had stood against one of the most feared forces in the galaxy, and won. But President Cooper knew this was just the beginning. "The Kraxan will return with a larger force," she told her advisors. "We need to prepare," and prepare they did. Factories around the world switched to producing ships and weapons. Volunteer rates for military service reached record levels. Young men and women lined up outside recruitment centers, eager to join the fight against the alien oppressors. Dr. William Taylor, a brilliant physicist working with Aurelian technology, made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. He discovered a way to create a resonance cascade in cracks in shield systems, causing them to fail catastrophically. It's like finding the exact musical note that can shatter a crystal glass, he explained to military leaders. We can make their shields destroy themselves. The technology was quickly incorporated into human weapons. Meanwhile, more Aurelian refugees arrived in the solar system, bringing news from their occupied homeworld. The Kraxan are enraged, Ambassador Zeksal told President Cooper. Emperor Vortek has never been defeated like this. He's ordering the construction of more warships. How long do we have? The president asked. Perhaps 3 of your months before. They can launch a major counterattack, Zeksal answered. But there is more. Other species the Kraxan have conquered are watching closely. There are whispers of hope spreading through the labor camps. Your victory has inspired them. President Cooper understood the importance of this information. Then we need to give them more than hope. We need to show them freedom is possible. She authorized Operation Lighthouse, a bold plan to broadcast messages of resistance throughout Kraxan territory. Using Aurelian communication technology, humans sent videos showing their victory at Neptune, along with promises of help to any who would rise against their oppressors. The Aurelians watched in awe as humans prepared not just to defend themselves, but to liberate others. During a private meeting, Ambassador Zeksal expressed his amazement to President Cooper. When we came to your world, we only hoped for sanctuary and perhaps diplomatic pressure against the Kraxan. We never imagined anyone would declare war on our behalf. President Cooper's response was simple but powerful. Where we come from, you don't stand by while bullies hurt the innocent. You stand up and you fight back. Her words spread quickly among the Aurelian refugees. Many volunteered to join human forces, eager to fight alongside the species that had given them new hope. On a military base in Colorado, human soldiers trained alongside Aurelian volunteers. Despite their physical differences, they found common ground in their determination to defeat the Kraxan. Sergeant Nathan Bailey worked closely with an Aurelian combat veteran named Carex. They developed new fighting techniques that combined human creativity with Aurelian technology. Your people fight differently than any species we've encountered, Carex told Nathan during a training break. Most races surrender when faced with superior force, but humans, you seem to fight harder when the odds are against you. Nathan shrugged. It's just how we're built, I guess. The worse things get, the more stubborn we become. As training continued, on Earth, Admiral Wilson's fleet was reinforced and expanded. New ships with advanced weapons joined her command daily. The humans were learning fast, adapting Aurelian technology and improving it with their own innovations. 3 months after the Battle of Neptune, as Zeksal had predicted, Kraxan sensors detected a massive fleet assembling at the edge of their territory. They're coming, Admiral Wilson informed Earth's leadership. Over 200 ships, their largest attack force in centuries according to Aurelian records. President Cooper met with her military advisors to discuss strategy. The Kraxan force was much larger than anything humans could match in numbers. We can't win a direct confrontation, General Ray Martinez pointed out. They outnumber us 3-1. Then we don't fight on their terms, said Admiral Wilson. We fight on ours. As the massive Kraxan armada moved toward Earth, humanity prepared its response. This would not be a conventional war. It would be humanity's way of fighting, creative, adaptive, and utterly relentless. The storm was gathering, but this time, Earth was ready. 1 year after first contact with the Aurelians, humanity launched its first major offensive against the Kraxan Dominion. The operation was called Thunderbolt, planned by General Frank Martinez and a team of Earth's best military minds. We won't attack their strongholds directly, Frank explained during the final briefing. That's what they expect. Instead, we'll target their supply lines, communication centers, and fuel depots, cut off their resources, and their war machine will start to fail. The operation involved multiple battle groups striking different targets simultaneously across Kraxan space. Among these forces were the new Ghost Rider stealth vessels, ships that could briefly phase out of normal space using principles of quantum entanglement, making them nearly impossible to detect. Captain Olivia Ross commanded the lead Ghost Rider ship, the USS Shadow. Her mission was perhaps the most dangerous, to penetrate deep into enemy territory and gather intelligence on Kraxan fleet movements. This technology has only been tested in controlled conditions, Admiral Wilson warned her before departure. You'll be the first to use it in combat. Olivia nodded confidently. My crew understands the risks, Admiral. We're ready. The Ghost Riders departed first, slipping away quietly. The main fleet would follow 2 days later. Olivia's ship entered Kraxan space undetected. The phasing technology worked perfectly, allowing them to observe enemy positions without being seen. What they discovered was troubling. The Kraxan are moving large numbers of ships away from the front lines, Olivia reported back to command. They're gathering around planets with high civilian populations. It looks like they're using their own people as shields. Back on Earth, General Martinez adjusted his plans accordingly. We'll avoid populated worlds for now, focus on military targets only. Operation Thunderbolt began in earnest. Human ships struck Kraxan outposts, destroyed communication relays, and disrupted supply chains. The attacks came from unexpected directions, following no pattern the Kraxan could predict. On the liberated Aurelian colony world of Vex Prime, Marine Sergeant Daniel Wright led a small team training local resistance fighters. The planet had been under Kraxan control for years before humans helped free it months earlier. Now it served as a forward base for the war effort. The key is to make them waste resources, Daniel explained to a group of Aurelian fighters. Hit them where they're weak, then disappear before they can respond. An Aurelian named Tavik raised one of his forearms. But they have scanners that can detect our movements. How do we hide? Daniel smiled and held up a small device. With this, our scientists call it a signature scrambler. It makes you look like background radiation to their sensors. The Aurelians were quick learners. Within weeks, resistance cells were operating on a dozen Kraxan-occupied worlds, causing disruption and forcing the enemy to divert troops from the front lines to deal with insurgents. The turning point came 3 months into Operation Thunderbolt. Admiral Wilson's fleet deliberately allowed itself to be trapped by a superior Kraxan force near a region of space called the Sarin Rift. The Kraxan commander, seeing an opportunity to destroy a significant portion of the human fleet, committed fully to the attack. They've taken the bait, Admiral Wilson informed her captains as Kraxan ships surrounded her fleet. Hold positions and prepare to execute planned snare. The trap was sprung when 20 Ghost Rider vessels suddenly phased into normal space behind the Kraxan fleet. They targeted the enemy's engines and weapon systems with precision strikes, crippling ship after ship. At the same time, Admiral Wilson's fleet activated the shield-disrupting technology developed by Dr. Taylor. Kraxan defensive systems failed across their fleet, leaving them vulnerable. The battle lasted just over 2 hours. When it ended, 32 Kraxan ships had been destroyed, and 17 captured. Among the captured vessels was the flagship carrying Imperial Prince Korzak, son of Emperor Vortek. News of the prince's capture spread quickly through the Kraxan Empire. For the first time in centuries, the ruling dynasty appeared vulnerable. On several subjugated worlds, populations that had been quietly watching the war now began active resistance. Captain Olivia Ross's Ghost Rider fleet pushed deeper into Kraxan territory, discovering prison worlds where other alien species were held as slaves. The aquatic Mersai and the silicon-based Terendi had been conquered centuries before the Aurelians. Their populations had been reduced to servitude, working in mines and factories to fuel the Kraxan war machine. Olivia's team made contact with resistance leaders from both species. We can help you fight back, she told them. Humans and Aurelians together have already won several battles against the Kraxan. The Mersai leader, a tall blue-skinned figure named Soral, studied Olivia carefully. Many have promised help before. All have failed or abandoned us when the Kraxan threatened them. We're different, Olivia replied. We weren't threatened first. We chose this fight because it's right. This concept, fighting for others simply because it was the right thing to do, was foreign to many of the species who had lived under Kraxan rule. The galaxy was a harsh place where survival usually took priority over moral principles. The human approach was unusual and compelling. Slowly, representatives from the enslaved species began to join the Human-Irillian Alliance. Each brought unique knowledge and abilities. The Mersai understood Kraxan naval tactics better than anyone. The Terendi could survive in environments lethal to most life forms, making them excellent saboteurs. On Earth, President Cooper addressed the United Nations, explaining the expanding scope of the war. What began as aid to a single species has grown into something much larger, she said. We now fight alongside 3 alien civilizations against an empire that has oppressed them for centuries. This is no longer just about protecting Earth or helping the Irillians. This is about ending tyranny wherever we find it. Not everyone on Earth supported this wider mission. Some argued that humanity was taking on too much, risking too many lives, for alien species they barely knew. Senator John Bell became the leading voice of opposition. We should focus on defending our own system, he argued in Congress. Let these other species solve their own problems. The debate continued, but the Eli war effort moved forward. Earth's factories worked around the clock producing ships and weapons. Military training centers were filled with recruits, including growing numbers of Irillians, Mersai, and Terendi, who wanted to fight alongside humans. As Operation Thunderbolt entered its 6th month, human-led forces had liberated 9 worlds from Kraxan control. Each victory brought more allies to their cause. Emperor Vortek, facing the first serious threat to his 1,000-year reign, grew increasingly desperate. In a private meeting with his war council, he made a fateful decision. If these humans want war, he growled, then we will show them true terror. Prepare the planet-killer weapons. His advisors looked shocked. My emperor, one dared to speak. Those weapons have not been used in 500 years. The cost in lives will be necessary, Vortek interrupted. These humans must learn that challenging the Kraxan has consequences. Target their mining colony near the edge of their territory. Let it serve as an example to all who would defy us. The order was given. As human forces pushed deeper into Kraxan space, they had no idea what terrible weapon was being aimed at them. The war was about to enter its most dangerous phase. The war entered its 3rd year. The human-led alliance had liberated 22 worlds from Kraxan control. What began as a response to the Irillians' plea for help had grown into a crusade for freedom that spanned dozens of star systems. But Emperor Vortek was not ready to surrender. As promised, he unleashed his planet-killer weapon against the human mining colony of New Seattle. 3 million people, humans, Irillians, and other species working together, were killed in an instant when the weapon tore the planet apart. News of the attack reached Earth within hours. There was no panic, no calls for retreat. Instead, a cold fury swept across humanity. President Cooper declared a day of mourning, then addressed the world. Today we have witnessed the true face of the enemy we fight, she said, her voice steady despite her grief. The Kraxan believe this attack will break our spirit. They are wrong. It only strengthens our resolve. In secret, a special operations team led by Commander Nicole Adams was already preparing a response. Their mission? Infiltrate the Kraxan, throne world of Zarek Prime, and destroy their superweapon production facilities. Nicole's team included humans, Irillians, and several Mersai, who knew the layout of the Kraxan capital from their time as servants there. They traveled aboard a modified Ghost Rider ship, using its phasing ability to slip past the heavy defenses around Zarek Prime. Remember, Nicole told her team as they prepared to land, our goal is the weapons facility only. We're not here for revenge. We're here to save lives. The team infiltrated the facility using Mersai knowledge of service tunnels and maintenance shafts. They planted powerful explosives at key points throughout the complex. As they worked, Nicole accessed the central computer system and downloaded vital information about Kraxan defenses and military deployment. Their mission was nearly complete when alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. They had been discovered. Fall back to extraction point, Nicole ordered as Kraxan security forces closed in. The team fought their way out, suffering casualties but managing to reach their ship. As they escaped the planet's atmosphere, they triggered the explosives. The weapons facility erupted in a series of massive explosions, visible from orbit. Nicole's team had succeeded, but at a high cost. 3 humans and 2 Aurelians had been killed in the fighting. The survivors mourned their friends, even as they celebrated the destruction of the facility that had created the planet-killer weapon. Meanwhile, the combined fleet of the Alliance prepared for what they hoped would be the final battle of the war. Intelligence gathered by Nicole's team and Captain Ross's Ghost Riders revealed that the Kraxan were gathering their remaining forces to defend the Aurelian homeworld. It was to be their last stand. Captain Greg Bennett of the USS Intrepid would lead the attack. His ship carried representatives from all 7 formerly subjugated species now fighting alongside humans. The symbolism was powerful. Those who had been conquered were returning as liberators. "This won't be easy," Greg told his officers during the final briefing. "The Kraxan have fortified the planet with everything they have left, but they're fighting to maintain their empire. We're fighting for freedom." The Alliance fleet jumped into the Aurelian home system on a clear day by Earth reckoning. What they found was intimidating. Over 100 Kraxan warships arranged in defensive positions around the planet. "All ships, battle formation Delta," ordered Greg. "Remember your training and trust your allies." The battle began with an exchange of long-range fire. Alliance ships, using Dr. Taylor's shield disrupting technology, targeted key Kraxan vessels. The Kraxan responded with massive energy weapons that could slice through hull armor. On the bridge of the USS Intrepid, Greg coordinated the diverse tactics of the coalition forces. The Mersai ships dove through the Kraxan formation at impossible speeds, drawing fire away from the main fleet. Terendi vessels, immune to radiation, moved close to the Kraxan ships and disabled their engines with specialized weapons. Human and Aurelian ships pressed the attack from multiple angles, preventing the Kraxan from concentrating their forces. It was chaos, but organized chaos, carefully planned to exploit the rigid Kraxan command structure that couldn't adapt quickly to changing circumstances. 3 hours into the battle, the Alliance had lost 22 ships, but destroyed twice that many Kraxan vessels. The enemy fleet was beginning to break apart, their formation crumbling as ships were destroyed or disabled. That was when Emperor Vortek made his final, desperate move. The Kraxan flagship moved toward the Aurelian sun, deploying what looked like a massive cannon. "What are they doing?" Greg asked his science officer. An Aurelian lieutenant named Zeven analyzed the readings from their sensors. "It's a solar destabilizer," he said, his voice shaking. "They're going to destroy our sun. If it works, the entire system will be lost." Greg understood immediately. If Vortek couldn't win, he would make sure no one could have the Aurelian homeworld. Billions would die, including his own troops, but the Emperor didn't care. "All ships target the Kraxan flagship," Greg ordered. "Maximum firepower." But the Kraxan flagship was heavily protected, surrounded by the remains of their fleet. Alliance. Ships couldn't get close enough to stop it before the weapon fired. Lieutenant Sam Phillips, a pilot on the USS Intrepid, approached Greg with a desperate plan. "Sir, the weapons bay on our fighters has the same dimensions as one of our new phase shift bombs. If I can get close enough to their flagship." Greg understood what Sam was suggesting. The phase shift bomb could bypass the Kraxan shields, but at such close range the pilot wouldn't survive the explosion. "There has to be another way," Greg argued. Sam shook his head. "There's no time, sir. That weapon is powering up now." Greg looked at the young pilot, then at the image of the Kraxan flagship on the main screen. Finally, he nodded. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Good luck." Sam ran to his fighter and launched immediately. As he approached the Kraxan flagship, enemy fire intensified around him. His small craft darted between larger vessels, taking damage but staying on course. "Almost there," Sam reported as his fighter, trailing smoke and debris, closed on the Kraxan flagship. In the final moments, Sam aimed his craft directly at the solar destabilizer weapon. For Earth, for the Aurelians, For everyone, he whispered as he triggered the phase shift bomb. The explosion tore through the Kraxon flagship, destroying the weapon seconds before it could fire. Emperor Vortek and his command staff were killed instantly. With their leader dead and their weapon destroyed, the remaining Kraxon ships began to surrender. After 1,000 years of conquest and cruelty, the Kraxon dominion had fallen. In the aftermath, as reconstruction began across formerly occupied worlds, the Irillian High Council erected a monument on their homeworld. The inscription read, "To the humans of Earth who answered our plea for aid with unwavering resolve. When we asked for shelter, they gave us justice. When we sought compassion, they offered liberation. They fought not because they had to, but because they could not bear to stand idle in the face of tyranny." The galactic community, which had long accepted Kraxon dominance as inevitable, watched in astonishment as the newest spacefaring species reshaped the power balance of known space. 1 year after the final battle, representatives from Earth and 27 liberated worlds gathered to form the Interstellar Alliance, dedicated to mutual defense and cooperation. Their founding principle, suggested by President Cooper and unanimously approved, was simple but powerful. Freedom is worth fighting for, not just for oneself, but for all who desire it. The plea for aid had been answered with war, but that war had brought peace to countless worlds that had known only oppression for generations. And humanity, once unknown beyond their own solar system, had emerged as champions of liberty throughout the stars.